Welcome to Sheila Lives Out Loud. I'm Sheila Moniga. Happy you found this channel. Please click subscribe and hit notifications so you never miss an episode when we upload. And we're counting down to a brand new season, but before that happens, we're taking a look back at conversations that inspired us to live, love, and grow. In this episode of My Motivate, we revisit a conversation on mental health with Nyambura Kiragu. She's attempted suicide 4 times, and she is now using her experience to reach out and save lives. You have been living with bipolar disorder and schizophrenia since you were a teenager.
Yes.
Let's go back to the beginning. And not the beginning of when I used to babysit you, but, understanding that there was something that was different about you. When did that happen?
Well, that happened when I was 15, or actually 14, a day before my birthday. I've been going through a lot, just questions about my purpose and the reason why I'm here. And when a day before my birthday, when I was turning 15, I tried to commit suicide. And so I was taken to hospital, I was admitted, and then I also went to a mental health hospital.
What did you do? I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, you're just a child. How did you plan and think and figure, this is what I'm going to do because I'm not getting the answers that I am getting. So this is the only way that I'm going to deal with what I'm asking and not getting answers from. How did they find you? Did you tell anybody that this was what you were going to do?
Well, I told one of my cousins, and he had it was actually at a party, my birthday party.
Right.
And so I told one of my cousins, and he called my dad. By this time, I'd locked myself in one of the rooms in the house, and I was with 2 of my friends and my cousin, and I was trying to speed up the process of dying. But by this time, my parents found out, and one of my aunts came and talked to me. I let her into the room, I opened the door for her. We talked, and she convinced me to go with her to her place, because I said I wanted to die, so she said, come with me. And then before I knew it, I passed out in the car, and then I found myself in Nairobi Hospital.
When you woke up and you realized you were in the hospital, what you planned and set out to do, you didn't do. What were you thinking and what were you feeling then?
Well, I was angry because I hadn't completed the process. And then also the whole process of my stomach being pumped up, of the medicine, that was really painful. And so it was just a really bad night to deal with. It was a really bad night.
I'm thinking about your family, your mom, your dad, your sister. What was that like? How did they handle you? What was going on with them? What was that relationship like?
Well, it was a bit tense because I felt like no one understood me. So I was a bit cold towards them because I felt misunderstood. So they felt helpless because they couldn't do anything, and I wasn't responsive. Of course, my sister, but by that time, both my sisters, my youngest sister was also born. So although my youngest sister was really small, maybe 1 or 2, she still sensed the depression I was going through and everything I was going through. So she was also a bit sad and affected. The same with my other sister, because I was always known for being someone joyful. And then all of a sudden something switched. And my parents, of course, were doing their best. They took me to all kinds of doctors, did all kinds of therapies. So they were really frustrated and felt helpless. Of course, my cousins, because we were all young at that time, they didn't really understand why I tried to commit suicide, and they were all really hurt and sad. So, but despite that, they were really supportive. My aunts, uncles, especially my grandparents. My grandparents came to see me in the hospital all the time, encouraged me, asked me, what can we do for you to be better? We'll do anything for you to feel better. And so it was really nice to have the support of my family. My friends, I sort of had this thing of just withdrawing. So they knew something had happened, but they really didn't understand what really happened because after I left school, at that time I was in Rusinga, when I left school, I just stopped all communication. Also because of the medication. The medication made you very drowsy and everything just slows down. So I sort of isolated myself from the friends. So it was mainly my family, nuclear and extended, that knew what was going on.
So, Berklee, creativity, it was destined to happen that you would take your music to the next level. But going to Berklee meant leaving the country. Take us back to being strong enough and well enough to travel and what happened on the other end of the pond.
Well, in 2008, I started doing music now full time. So I was studying classical music, and that's when I got also into jazz. And that was here in Kenya. And so I did that for a number of years. Then I really improved. Like I even stopped my medication and I was fine. And so at that point I felt like I was ready to go to Berklee College of Music. So I applied and I got in. And so I went there and I was actually quite fine for the first time. But then after some time, my grandfather passed away and that affected me. And also the load of doing a dual major was quite a bit. So then that's when things went downhill again. One thing is my mom noticed, she came to, I met her in New York, and she noticed I was not sleeping. I was just doing a lot of work, staying up until 4 a.m., waking up early. And so she started noticing that something was changing. And then, of course, but I was busy with work, and so I told her I was fine. I tried to assure her I was fine, and by that time I also thought I was fine. I just thought that I was really busy with work. And with school, I think it's not something where they really pick out. Like they don't really observe the students and try and find out what's going on in their life. It's only when you come forward and go for help that they start taking action. So it wasn't, even my friends, I think a couple of friends noticed that I was out of touch because every time I start going downhill, I just lose touch with everyone. November has always been a tough time for me because that's when my birthday is, and that was when the first suicide attempt was. And so that really made me think a lot and back again to purpose, what is life and everything. And so again, a day before my birthday, I tried to kill myself again and landed in hospital.
So one of your colleagues, one of your classmates found you, or what happened?
I can't really remember the details because I've gone through some procedures that affect my memory. But one thing I think I remember is I think I called 911 before it got really bad. Because one thing I go through is like, I get second thoughts. Like I try and overdose, and then after a while I'm like, no, do I really want to die? Like I'm like, maybe I shouldn't. And so that's when I called for help.
Right, so they came in and took you into the hospital.
Yes.
And they had to make a call to Kenya. What happened?
They made a call to my guardian, my mom's best friend.
So how long did this next phase of recovery take? What did you go through then?
Well, it's still taking place because actually this year I've had 3 suicide attempts. One in August, one in September, one in October.
And this is 2018?
Yes.
You tried 3 times?
Yes.
Okay. And your family, going through this 3 times this year, what's that relationship like between you and all of them? Do they just want to keep you close to them at all times? Nobody wants to let you out of their sight?
Yes, they actually do. Like there's actually a period of time where if I go silent, like if my mom if I miss a call from my mom, she'll just be panicking trying to find me, and she'll be calling and getting people to call me, and so it's been tough for them. Thankfully, my sisters have been away from school, so it's not truly affected them because we have limited the information that they've gotten, at least when they're away. Like Now, actually, they're going to find out about the suicide attempts in this
From
video.
this, oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh my. You know, when I spoke to you, and I think there was one time we met in the hospital. I'll go back to my brother had knee surgery, and I'd gone to visit him in the hospital, and I met you. And I said, oh, hi. And, you know, I'm always loud and, hi, how are you doing? And huggy. And I said, so why are you here? And he said, oh, I'm just not doing well, but then I'm about to go home. Was that one of those attempts?
Yes, it was.
So here I was, Auntie Nikki, and I couldn't even give you an extra special hug. I feel helpless. There's that word, helpless, again. But looking at all these attempts and knowing that there's a part of you that's still fighting to survive, what keeps you going?
I think the main thing that keeps me going is God. God, music, and my family. Yes.
All right. And there's a lot of healing in your music. I've watched you perform. I've heard you perform. And it's just a joy. You truly are. I remember at the launch of the First Lady's Beyond Zero, you know, a half marathon, you were one of the young children and the young people who were performing for her.
Yes.
How did that make you feel?
Well, that made me feel really good because it's actually been a healing process because it gave me something to live for. It gave me something. It's what has brought me here today because I was so focused on rehearsals, on making sure everything was going well. Because I was also helping with the students, so I was also coordinating the music. So I had to make sure I was on top of everything. And because I was doing that, it took my mind off everything else. And that brought healing to me. And just being able to get on stage again. I think I've not been on stage since 2014.
Wow.
So that was
So
that
watching
was
you on
nice.
stage then was a wonder.
It was great.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What would you advise, you know, family members, the Auntie Nickies of this world who really want to be there with you every step of the way but just wouldn't know where to begin?
Well, I think the first thing is just to educate yourself about mental health and understand what it is and be careful with the words you speak because words have a lot of power. They can break or build someone. And so, especially when there's lots of thoughts, because there's lots of thoughts going in your mind, there's lots of blaming yourself, especially as someone going with mental health. And so it's important for you to not receive blame or criticism. It's better to receive love. So I think love is a key thing, and just people understanding and being willing to listen and not being quick to share an opinion based on what society feels, but based on what love is, a response of love.